Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. I am Eve Richards. We've got an exciting show today. I am joined today by my co-host, Tyrone DuBose. He's an actor, voice actor. He does it all. Tyrone, welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. It's so good to have you back.
Well, greetings and salutations to you, Eve, as well as everybody out there. I am once again honored to be a part of your wonderful podcast. And this podcast is going to be a little extra special because we have someone here who is with us, and it is none other than Miss Michelle Danner, who is a director. Michelle, I'm honored to be here with you today, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Hi.
All right.
Okay, Michelle, your story was incredible. I was reading about your background and learning that at age 4, you had relocated from New York to Paris. Your father was, I believe, the president of William Morris Agency. Oh, he opened the office in Paris, and you actually got into acting at age 4. Tell us about those days, going back to when you moved to Paris.
Yeah, so my dad opened the very first William Morris Agency in Paris, France. As a matter of fact, I was there last night at the William Morris Endeavor here in LA, watching a screening of The Apprentice, which is very interesting. But I remember a year ago being in Paris at the corner, Chateau Marbeuf, of the street where he opened the offices. And when I was a little girl, I'd go to the office and play under his desk, and all these big stars would come in and talk about their careers and their vision boards. And I remember, just playing and listening to all of that.
And what actor or actress stuck out with you more than ever in your journey today that you've met?
You mean in terms of like all actors?
Yes. Like in your journey with the agency and being with your father, was there one particular actor or actress that stood out to you?
Well, when I was growing up, when I was little, Edith Piaf, certainly. I think the dad asked her to be my godmother, but then she got sick. There's some wonderful actors singers that impacted me when I grew up. And, when I started to be a teenager, all the movies of Meryl Streep. And every time I see a performance, that moves me. I'm impacted by that. Last night, there was the performances of, Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice were so good. They were so strong. And I'm sure they'll be nominated. Incredible performances. I love so many actors. It's very hard to, I always say, we all have our list of 10 actors.
Yeah.
And Meryl Streep is not on the list. And then everybody goes, what? She's not on the list. No. She's above the list. She defines the list.
Yes.
There's Danny B. Lewis, and then there's extraordinary actors like Denzel Washington and Lupita Nyong'o, and just so many. I just love actors, and somebody I heard once say, it's not about my favorite actor, it's my favorite performance.
Yes.
So Miranda's Victim is a powerful film with significant historical impact. How did Donald Sutherland's involvement influence the project? And what was the lasting impression that he did, in terms of his contributions, knowing that he's no longer with us today?
Well, this is such an important question, such a great question that you're asking. Donald Sutherland always reminded me of my dad, always. And he was my mother's favorite actor. So I remember I was location scouting in New Jersey when the call came in and they said, Donald is interested in playing the part. So it was like, I just felt that there was an angel looking down on this project that was saying this is going to happen. But he, the fact that he signed on early on made the whole difference. And in working with him, he sent me the most beautiful emails. I have to say that I've been wanting to frame them. The way he writes and his sense of humor and the heart that he brought to the work, to creating the character of Judge Wren. He just cared so much, and this, sadly, was his last movie role. I remember emailing him and telling him that I had another project I wanted to work with him on. Um, but it was extraordinary to work with him. I absolutely have no words, and he's the reason why. I'm pretty sure I emailed that to him several times and told him that he was the reason why Miranda's Victim got made. And it was a gap in our history because a story about how the Miranda rights came about had never been told, neither through a Law and Order or a documentary or a miniseries or a movie, nothing. This is the only story that's out there. It's about, how the survivor, Patricia Weir, fought for her rights, and it gave birth to the Miranda rights.
Wow.
Ms. Danner, tell us more about your journey as a director. How did it all come about for you?
I mean, it started for me with my passion of storytelling. When I was growing up in Paris, I would always go to the library. I'd come back with, bags of books. I would set up myself on my closet, like up in my closet, a little reading area. And I would just read as much as I could. So love of stories, love of literature, love of words. And then I took acting classes at the Conservatory of Paris, at Versailles. And then I moved to New York when I was a teenager and studied with Stella Adler, with Uta Hagen, with Herbert Bergdorf. And from there moved to LA, where I started to teach acting because I was passionate about the craft of acting. And so at one point, I remember I had 3 auditions that were going to take me out for the day. And then I had 7 people calling me for coachings. And I was like, okay, which one? And I was like, you know what, just coach everybody and forget the auditions, because you could either get them or not get them, but this is a tangible thing. So then I started to coach and I started to teach. And from there, I realized that I wanted to sign the paintings. And when you're a director of a movie, you get to do that. You get to pick everything, the canvas, the textures, the brushes, the colors. And so I realized that that was my way of telling the story the way that I wanted it to be told. And so I went into directing, and I'm lucky enough that I have been working consistently as a director and fulfilling, a mission that's in me to tell stories.
That's incredible. So your latest project, which I'm sure you just completed, Under the Stars in Italy, and your mother is Italian as well. You've got such an amazing cast, Andy Garcia. And tell us about that project.
Yes. So after Miranda's Victim, I actually shot another movie in between. I shot a movie called The Italians that just won an award for Best Movie at the Los Angeles International Film Festival a couple of nights ago.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. We're headed to New York to the Big Apple Film Festival on December 12th. It'll be released next year. At the end of the movie, there's a card that says, "For my mother, Loredana, who was Italian." And I've always had a love of Italy. We would go on vacation. I grew up in Europe for most of my childhood. We'd always go on vacation in Italy. My mother was from Milano. And so when they offered me this movie, I hadn't even read the script. They were like, "Oh, we got a rom-com. Do you want to go shoot it in Puglia?" So they had me at Puglia because my whole childhood, I always heard Puglia, so beautiful in Italy. It's so beautiful. I was like, yeah, I'll go. And it was beautiful. And I had a great experience shooting. And I asked Andy Garcia, who was also Miranda's Victim, and got a chance to work with the extraordinary Toni Collette. And Alex Pettifer, who's wonderful, Eva Di Domenici, that's in The Cleaning Lady, and a lot of, well-known Italian actors. Rob Estes, who I've collaborated with on so many projects, also, was part of the cast. Wonderful actor. So I had this cast, and I, did this rom-com. I'm in post-production now. It's a fun story about falling in love. And so I think we need those stories right now.
Yeah.
Ms. Danner, you have had a lot of highs in your journey and your career. Tell us about some more of the highs in which you've had in your life.
Oh, my biggest highs are my children. Those are my highs. Is, having 2 wonderful boys. One of them recently graduated from USC, studied film and theater, and he writes, and he works with me in the production company. And he's writing his own scripts and rewriting other scripts. And It's just great to work with your son who's artistically, minded and loves the work and loves storytelling. So I'm very lucky in that way. I also work with my sisters as well. And I work with a group of, collaborators from my first AD to my director of photography to my editor who worked with me on countless movies. So I'm very lucky to have this, this village around me.
That's fantastic. So tell us about your days. I think you did some soaps as well, and you're actually supposed to be a background actress, but you ended up becoming one of the major. You had like a reoccurring
Well,
role.
not a major. I don't know where you heard that, but what it was is I had booked yes, an extra on All My Children,
Yeah.
and I was studying with Stella Adler. So I was in the room with all the extras and I'm like writing this backstory for my character, like this intense backstory. But what was interesting is that they noticed me amongst all of the extras. And so they bumped me up, I think it was an under 5 or something, or a little recurring something. But anyway, because I feel like, I was popping so much because I was full with life. I knew the backstory of my character so intensely.
Incredible.
Tell us more about directing now as from directing in the past. Is there a major difference? Is it based on the artistic aspect? Is it based on actors and actresses? What is different now from directing, or is there any difference from directing now than there was in the past?
Well, yes, with every experience that you have, with every movie that you direct, you become more and more confident and more vulnerable. Um, I mean, I'm always vulnerable. I always feel like I don't know what I'm doing. The last day of shooting Miranda's Victim, was the last day. We were not going to get the actors back. As a matter of fact, that was good because I didn't have any reshoots. And I had 27 setups because we had lost a location because of the storm. There was the storms in New Jersey, so we had to shut down. So we lost time, and I walked on set. And early on, I was staying in this house on the beach and swam in the pool and looked up and I saw this bird. This bird came and we had like this interaction with this bird. It seems a little crazy, but I walked on set and I told the crew and I told, we're going to get all this today. And everybody's like, there's no way people thought I was absolutely crazy. And I had a plan. I was very, very focused. I mean, talk about the power of intent. And I got all my shots. I found a way to do it. I directed traffic, and we also had a company move, which, is so crazy. And we didn't lose time. We did not hit penalties. And we were supposed to wrap at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were on the beach. It was the last day was the rape scene in the car. And it was literally apocalyptic. The sun's coming up. And, and I literally stopped exactly on time. I think it was 5:30 a.m. And I had told my nanny who came with me, I'm going to be back at the house at 7 a.m. And I was exactly not at 7:01. Everything was like right on. It wasn't even a minute late. And I was able to get the 27 setups. And I was looking at my DP and my first AD, and I said, I told you guys.
Wow. So going back to your latest project, Under the Stars, how does this differ from your previous body of work? And what new themes are you willing to share with the audience? Or excited to share rather with the audience?
Yeah, it's a romantic comedy. I've directed romantic comedies before. There was so I had finished watching the reality. I never watched reality shows like ever, but I had watched The Golden Bachelor.
Oh.
And and I said to myself, well, there needs to be a second storyline in this movie that deals with the older people falling in love. So then I brought in this other storyline about Andy Garcia's character and Toni Collette's character meeting and falling in love. There's that movie Before Sunrise, I think, that really captures two people falling in love in the moment. So I was inspired by that. And yeah, I mean, it was great to shoot in Italy because it's so beautiful. The hours, they have these French hours in Italy, so you only get to shoot 10 hours as opposed to 12 and a half, like in the States. And that's a strict thing. If not, you go overtime. But I found that we made it work. It was 24 days of shooting. And I like my sets to be very calm. At one point, I think on day 4, somebody started to yell. because I wanted to put the camera up in height, and like, there's no time to do that. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. No. This doesn't happen on my sets. Calm down. And, that's not the way I work. Yeah, because all the actors have to feel a safe environment so they can explore things and take risks. So I make sure that that happens. But I had a great experience shooting in Italy, and actually I want to go back.
In listening to your stories, as you were telling that story, I was about to ask you, what are some of the things in which you do to help motivate your actors and actresses on the set? The first thing I heard you say was being calm, and I think that's the most important aspect of people feeling comfortable. What are some of the other things you do in which to help motivate your actors and actresses on the set?
Well, yeah, it's not to feel the pressure, because when some of it is good for the adrenaline, but mostly I think that if you have a released instrument, that's when, choices can come out of, and you can explore things and then go deep and take chances. And so I like a lot of calmness on the sets. I think that that's the key. I like my actors to feel like they're taken care of. Yeah. I like them to know that if there's, something they want to talk about, I'm always accessible to them, obviously. And then they call for me several times, I want to talk to you, I want to talk to you. And we talk about it ahead of time. And, we talk about the choices. We talk about what this is about and, what the height of it is, what the stakes of it are. Yeah, I don't never want them to feel like, oh God, we got to move on. We got to move on because, time. Yeah. I want them to feel that the opposite, that we have all the time in the world to shoot this.
So yeah. You've trained with some of the best, and you being an acting coach, director, and you've been an actress as well. What sets your school apart from the others?
Well, I think that we are not dogmatic. I did study with a lot of the great teachers. And one of the things that always made me want to run was the idea of dogma. When someone said, this is the only way that you can do this, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That cannot be. This is art. There's got to be another way and yet another way and another way. There has to be infinite possibilities. So I don't believe in all of the actors coming to the middle, the herd mentality. And it's all the same teachings for everybody. Everybody has to assemble for themselves a unique set of skills. And I call it their own golden box, where they not only, learn tools and how to break down scripts and create a character and make choices, but also every lesson that you learn when you work, when you're on set, when you're on stage, and life lessons that will inevitably come your way on a daily basis. All of those go into this golden box, and you have the key, and you dig in there and pull out what you need for the moment, for that part, for that story.
Ms. Danner, can you tell me about one of your proudest moments as a director?
Well, there's so many, but since we talked about Donald Sutherland, I must say that his face comes up. It's the twinkle in his eyes. Oh, yeah. It's him doing it, and I want to do it again. I want to do it again. It's, his desire to keep raising the bar, which always is something that moves me. So he comes up, but of course, since I love actors so much and I feel that it's such a collaborative process, every actor that I connect with, I have these experiences with, and I connect mostly with 99% of my actors.
That's great. So you've been an actress, you're a director, you've done Broadway. What's your advice for any emerging filmmakers, actors, directors to find their voice in the industry?
Well, I think it's really important that you should study. You should take the time to research, to watch as many things as you can. It's such an interesting time in the last decade. Obviously, everything has exploded. There's so much content on every platform. I just watched, not last night, but the night before, the movie with Sean Penn and Dakota Johnson, which I loved quite a lot, Daddy-O, which was shot in 10 days on a soundstage with LED screens because it all takes place pretty much in a taxi cab from JFK into New York City. I really liked it. I really liked that kind of filmmaking. I just think the most that you can study. I did not do what my son did. I didn't go to film school. I didn't do that. I was self-taught. I took myself to the theater and I took myself to the movies and to the museums but I would do everything that I'm doing now. I would do it a whole lot earlier. And you can see behind me, everybody asks me, did you read all these books? Did you watch all these movies? Well, a lot of them, yes. Yes, since this is what I'm passionate about.
Ms. Danner, you spoke about the being self-taught aspect, which is really unique. Were there some struggles that you could think of along the way that got you to the place and where you are today?
Well, yes, everything feels to me. I use these words quite a lot. Heavy lifting. I just never feel like nothing is handed to me. I have to work hard for everything.
Wow.
It's a fact. I feel, but this is what I hold up the mirror to not only my two kids, but my students. Not only do I tell them to get off their ass and work hard, I do it myself, and I think you have to really own a work ethic that sometimes, most of the time, I always say I never want to do anything. I mean, I never really do. I just always have this muscle that's ingrained in me that pushes myself to do it. I mean, I do have the chip, that's the drive chip. I do have that chip. But a lot of times I don't want to, I don't want to use it. So I feel like everything is hard work. Now, some things fall into place a little bit more easier, like the casting of Miranda's Victim, that extraordinary A-list cast. One person said, yeah, it's Donald. The other person, Andy Garcia. And then it catapulted at Abigail Breslin, who's the wonderful lead in it. She's so great. As a matter of fact, we had such a great experience that we ended up doing another movie together right after that called The Italians. I love theater companies and I love companies on film. I love there's certain directors that work like that. They keep casting the same actors. I love working with the same actors and new actors, of course. But to have the moment you finish a movie and you have a great experience with, all those actors, you want to immediately do something else with them again.
Incredible. So directing Miranda's Victim must have been a significant undertaking. What was the most challenging aspect of bringing such a sensitive and historical story to the screen?
Well, it was a period piece, right? So, and we shot it on film. And we had, I can't remember, I think it was 28 days. So it wasn't even like 35 days. So, we had to stay on schedule. I did get sick in the middle of it. It was interesting so it was during COVID, so we had to wear masks. So they let me wear the clear mask on the face so that everybody could see my lips, because if not, it's so hard, especially with noise on set. So we were shooting these scenes, with the smoke machine, and people were smoking these cigarettes, because it's in the 60s. And so that smoke, the combination of all that smoke got under the mask. And I ended up getting an infection and a throat infection. And I remember, as a matter of fact, during lunch, I went to urgent care and my throat was like, on fire. And the doctor from urgent care called me and goes, you have to go to the emergency room. You don't understand. This could travel to your blood. You could die. And I was like, I have 6 more hours to shoot. If I go to the emergency room now, we got to shut down because nobody's going to take over for me. I said, I'm just going to take my chances, shoot for 6 more hours, and then I'll go to the emergency room. So I did that, and thankfully I didn't need surgery, and we worked it out. I did, steroids, which is a pain in the ass, but I did it. But I have to say that comes up as a challenging, except in addition to the last day, the 27 setups that everybody told me were impossible to get. Those two things, getting sick in the middle of it and that, are two things that come up.
Wow.
You spoke fondly about your son, who has somewhat taken a bit of a same path in which you have. Tell us more about the journey in which he's on, and do you see him being perhaps as good as his mom?
No,
This is not a competition. This is not a competition.
Pass me. far. I always say I know nothing. He's gonna surpass me by far. Remember, you'll see. We have this interview that we did, and we'll see what happens in the next 10 years. He has extraordinary ideas. He's a wonderful writer. The last 3, 4 movies that I've done, he basically came on and rewrote them. And this movie Helios, I have a big, sci-fi thriller movie about sun flares hitting the earth, and we have some great sponsors, Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, Space Kids. We're going to shoot at NASA. We have permission to shoot there for 10 days. And it's a great script. And my son recently got added to the writing team. They gave him a writing credit because his contributions to the script were so big. And he worked on it hard, and he took it to this place that it's in right now, which is a great place. So he's been a great collaborator, and he's going to do his thing, and I'm going to support him. And in a way, I think it'll be fun for me to be on set and not have the vision of the directing on my shoulders, but support him and produce it for him, I'm looking forward to that.
Wow. So going back to Under the Stars, when should the audiences expect to see that? And is it going to be a theatrical release?
They say it is. It's going to be in the spring. So yeah, I think it's really, I've been watching tons of rom-coms, as you can imagine, and some of them are great and some of them are not so great. It's hard. I think it's a hard genre to get because it predominantly rests on whether your leads have chemistry or not. I mean, that's the first box that you have to check. They have to have chemistry. But I do believe that Alex Pettyfer and Eva DiDomenici have great chemistry, and Toni Collette and Andy Garcia certainly have great chemistry as well. So I think that it's going to sizzle. It's going to be, a fun, entertaining movie to watch about love, about falling in love.
That's a great storyline.
Yes, indeed. Ms. Darren, take us for a day in the life of a director such as yourself. It starts, I'm sure, early in the morning and ends late at night. Tell us some of the intricacies that a director goes through in the face of watching their story come to life with so many different people from different backgrounds, different actors and actresses. Give us a day in the life.
Yeah, well, I start the day by trying to do some exercise because you have to clear your mind, some meditation, and then I go into meetings, into Zooms, into, planning, reading. That's one of my greatest frustrations that I share with my students. I never have time to read everything that I want to read. I wish that I had so much more time, but I try and make time later at night for that. And, now I'm going to go and do several meetings. And it depends if I'm not shooting, right? If I'm shooting, then I go on set and then I'm, 16 hours on set. And then I'm always trying to watch something. I'm always trying to replenish. I'm always trying to watch. I'm going to New York now for the holidays, for Thanksgiving and for the end of the year. And I have about 10 Broadway shows that I'm going to see. And of course, I'm going to see Wicked, and I'm going to see, Gladiator and all the movies that are out there. I try and see all the movies that come out, and then I have a list, and I go back and I see all of the, the things that I've missed that I haven't seen. I mean, one of the series that I really want to watch that I haven't watched yet, I watched some of it, is The Wire. So I really want to go back and watch The Wire. I have all these stacks of The New Yorker. There's a joke in one of the plays saying, I never have time to read The New Yorker. But I try as much as possible to have meaningful conversations. I do my fair share of interviews and podcasts. As a matter of fact, me and my son, I brought him in to teach a class. I teach also. So I teach online and I teach in person. I teach master classes and I go in different parts of the world to teach classes. I'm going to be in Berlin in February. I'm going to teach in New York now, December, I think it's 14th, the Golden Box. So I brought my son in to teach. We did a script analysis of Fly Me to the Moon. And we had such a good time doing that together that we looked at each other and we said, maybe we should do a monthly podcast and pick a movie. And this came up for us. There are no bad movies. and talk about a movie, and even if it's not great, but what's good about it. So anyway, we'll see how that comes to life.
So are you still teaching? I know you have a studio in LA.
No, I am. I have two schools. I have the Los Angeles Acting Conservatory, which is a program school, and I have the Michelle Danner Acting Studio, which are, individual classes. And I have a faculty of teachers, wonderful faculty of teachers that the students love. Our body of students love this faculty. And, but I also, of course, it's called the Michelle Danner Acting Studio. So
So
I,
what's next
I
for
meet
you?
with students, I teach, but it's always been, it will always be. Obviously, if I'm on set, I can't teach, but in between, even when I'm in post-production, I can teach. It's always will be a great passion of mine and a duty to pass it down, because I have this knowledge because I studied with Stella and I studied with Ura and I studied with Herbert Bergdorf and I studied with many, many teachers that were incredible.
So what's next for you? What are you working on? Anything that you'd love to share?
Yes, well, I have a romantic comedy called Starstruck. I have Helios, this big movie for 2025. There's another movie that we're preparing for, Party Crasher. So I have several movies that are in the works. I like to have the image that all these planes are in the runway, and the one that's going to fuel up with all the gas the sooner than the others will be the one that takes off.
Ms. Danner, did you think that all of this legendary aspect of your life, did you ever think that this was going to happen for you? Did you believe that this was a part of your journey and your legacy?
Well, I don't think of legendary, and I certainly don't think of legacy, but I would suppose that I do, however, think that Miranda's Victim is a very good something that I did because it was a gap in our history. Like nobody talked about how these Miranda rights came about. And in a movie called The Runner, right before Miranda's Victim, I had a scene where it said you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to this, yeah. And I never questioned where did that come from. So the fact that I got a chance, thanks to George Colbert, who found the story to direct this movie, I think it is certainly part of a legacy, without legendary, that for sure not. But, I just want to do the work. I just want to do the work and keep being able to tell stories for however many decades I've got, which hopefully a few, um, and to collaborate, to keep working with great artists.
So what were some of the challenges making Miranda's right? You must have had some challenges bringing that story to life.
Well, like I said, it was on film. So, on film, you don't have tons of takes. You have to be more economical. As a matter of fact, when we talked about doing it on film, my son said, "Oh, you're not the right director to do it on film because you like to give your actors many takes." And so, of course, if you're doing it on HD, you can go another take, another take. If you're doing it on film, you have to be careful. So, in fact, I found myself negotiating with Kodak in between scenes to give me, a really good deal on extra film. So that would be a challenge. The challenge also is that I got sick with the throat was, a challenge that day. And the last day of shooting, those 27, setups that I didn't know that I was going to be able to get was certainly a challenge. But the rest of it was it flowed. It flowed really nicely. I was very organized. There was really no problems on set. It was a great set.
Any behind the scenes, something that you'd want to share, outtakes that no one.
When you ask that question, it's because you're going to throw somebody under the bus. And then, so, there's no way that you're going to do that. Maybe 25 years from now, when I get ready, or 30 years or whenever, 100 years, when I get ready to croak.
I have a question. Do you think that after people see this movie that they'll have a better understanding of the law?
Oh, yeah, totally. We've had people weigh in, like, lawyers and judges and, the widow, I believe, Detective Cooley is alive. There's some of the families that are alive that have weighed in. And Patricia Weir herself, the victim. And she said it was very accurate and she was very supportive and she came out and supported the movie. Her and I went together. We did the Morning Joe show.
Oh.
To wake up at 4:00 in the morning for that. That was fun.
Wow. So I'm going to switch gears into something fun. I know you said you're going to New York for the holidays. How do you celebrate? It's that wonderful season. We're approaching Thanksgiving. and of course, Christmas. So how do you celebrate?
We're a very close family. I'm very close to my sisters. I work with my sisters, and I'm always grateful to be with them. And we cook together, and we go to the theater, and we go to the movies, and we go to the museums, and we do everything that you can imagine. You know, that whole New York list around the holidays. We go look at the windows. We go, we go to Central Park. It's a lot of fun to be in that part of the world during, that time of the year.
Visiting all around the world, I know you said that Italy was one of your favorite places. Do you have some other favorite places as well?
Um, Yes, I love Europe. Is just all of Europe. We did this trip with my sisters, with my family. We were at the Ischia Film Festival with the movie The Italians. We were in Maratea, which is in the south of Italy. And then we went from there, we went to Norway, we went to Flam. We took this boat and this woman and the train and this woman sings. It's a very like iconic trip in Norway. And then we went to Sweden, we went to Stockholm, and from there went to Portugal. We went to Lisbon and different parts of Portugal. And then I went back to Sardinia, a beautiful place in Italy, on a yacht, because I'm trying to raise money for movies, upcoming movies. So there were a lot of people there. And so I travel a lot. I love all kinds of parts of the world, places that I haven't been to. I have that on my vision board. Like I've always wanted to go to Bali. I've always wanted to go to Japan. So I'm sure that that's going to happen in the year to come. And I went to South Africa. I went to Johannesburg. I went to Cape Town. Beautiful, beautiful places. I went to Russia. They asked me over a decade ago to teach in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and they had like 400 students, and the first 5 rows were populated with their famous Russian actors. It was quite an experience, and it was intense, like you would not believe. I take pictures, 400 pictures. At the end of that, after 5 days of teaching, I couldn't feel the muscles on my face. I went back in my hotel. My kids were sightseeing the Red Square with my sister. I went back to the hotel and just collapsed and started to cry. I mean, they had gotten everything out of me. And I'm glad that I went, because as I was there and took the train to St. Petersburg, and I thought to myself, I don't think I'll ever come back here again.
Wow.
And I think I was right.
So if you could collaborate with any director, actor, present or past, who would it be and why?
Well, I'm very inspired by the work of Mike Leigh. I think he's a wonderful director, the way he works with his actors. Steven Spielberg, of course. Scorsese. Rob Reiner, When Harry Met Sally, is my very favorite. Romantic comedy. Michael Mann, Heat is one of my very favorite movies. I have a list of wonderful directors and writers that I'd love to collaborate with.
If you were in a room with young directors who had an opportunity to speak with you, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, to really be patient, to take the time to study the craft, to understand what it takes, because the more knowledge that you have, the better it will be, the better the ride will be. And to quote Judi Dench, who is one of my very favorite actresses, is to expand the goalposts, is to keep raising the bar. Wow. She said, you can't be better in your work than you are in your life. So keep working on your humanity, keep working. Travel, I think, helps you to expand your humanity, to really keep replenishing yourself all the time.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to a young talent, or not just even a seasoned talent? How do rejection is very difficult. What would be your advice to anyone?
Yeah, to not get discouraged, and to be prepared that for 100 no's, there will be 1 yes. So that's the ratio. So prepare yourself for the 99 no's. And it could be more than 99, of course. It could be. But for every 100, that it's not always yes, but it's not no to you. It's just no in that. But it's not personal.
You spoke about your traveling being a part of the humanity aspect of of your life. How has it helped you in your not just professional life but your personal life?
Oh, I've once we were at Sundance a few years ago, we went snowmobiling with the kids, and there was a map of the world on the wall. And we stood in front of that map for a good 40 minutes. And we were like, okay, so we've been here, we've been here, we've been here, we haven't been there, we haven't been there. There's so many places we want to go to. And so many places we want to go back to. Um, so it enriches you in a way that nothing else does. But, I call it also heavy lifting. It's a lot of work to travel.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I mean, in 2025, I have a lot of trips that are already scheduled. So you have to be smart on how you do it and do it ahead of time, so that you don't, it's called wear and tear. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. So the last question, Michelle, is if you were to have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Uh, um, oh God, that is such a hard question. It's a really hard question because too many people come up, like one face after the other comes up. But if I had to throw out one person, um, you got me there. You got me. Just do it. Meryl Streep.
Oh, that's a very good one. Michelle, this has been amazing getting to meet you in person, talk about your body of work. It was really incredible. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you
Yes,
for
ma'am. I'm
having me.
absolutely honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was such a fantastic episode. Yeah. Ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
watching us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching us today on the Discovery Pod with Ease YouTube channel. You could listen to this episode on your favorite podcast. Roger Neal, thank you so much for producing. Jamie, thank you. And of course, Tyrone, thank you so much. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please watch this episode on the Discovery Pod with Ease YouTube channel. Please tune in next week. You never know who's going to stop by. Until then, bye.